Much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. My name is Tom Kresh. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions. I'll be our host tonight. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for the Applied Exercise Physiology Master's Program virtual information session. There's a lot of other things you could be doing right now. You're choosing to spend that time with us, and for that, we're certainly really appreciative. But I do feel like I'm confident that this will be a good use of your time as you're previewing your academic future here at CU Bloomsburg in one of our graduate programs. The event should take probably 30 or 40 minutes. We have a presentation that Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley will be delivering. Then we're going to open it up to Q&A there at the end. And this will be recorded as well. So whether you're watching live or you're watching a recording, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are always happy to help. But before we go any further, Dr. Andriacci and Dr. Hiley, could you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hey, I don't see anyone, so I don't know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, they're all watching. Yeah,
Hey, you. Hey, I'm Dr. Andriacci. I don't see you, but you see me. It's kind of creepy, but it's okay. If you don't know me, I'm a faculty member here in the Department of Health and Exercise Science. This is the end of my 21st year. I'm originally from Williamsport. Favorite color is blue. For those of you that don't know me, I have 3 daughters. They're range in age from 13. I have a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old. They all love Taylor Swift. So I'm, living the dream.
And Dr. Andriacci, what's your area of research? Like, what's your
my area? I was trained as a pediatric exercise physiologist, but in the past couple of years, since I've been here, I've been an opportunistic researcher. I've been doing a lot of stuff with body composition. In the fall, I'll be doing a supplement study using turmeric. And I'm always doing research because it's fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Great. Thank you. Dr. Hiley.
Hey, everybody. Dr. Hiley here. I'm in the end of my 7th year here at Bloomsburg, but 14th year teaching. I was at Lock Haven before here and in Virginia before that. But I've been in the program for quite a long time. It's felt because I'm a product of the undergrad program as well as this graduate program, and wanted to come back and teach in it and continue to do great research with Dr. Andriacci, which we did back when I was a youngin, and so was he. And we are continuing a lot of that work, and we need some more of you to come in here and continue that work with us, because honestly, that's the absolute favorite thing for both of us to do with you guys. We do teach a lot of classes in exercise physiology and exercise testing, and clinical exercise physiology is where I teach a lot of my stuff, but we weave a lot of our research into those classes, and that's what we love to do more than anything, is teach you how to do that, and along the way help you find your path in this place and from this place, and maybe to come back someday, right?
That's right. Make it full circle. Dr. Andriacci took you under his wing, and look at you now, right?
Yeah, and I was trained in the same place with like pediatric exercise phys at Pittsburgh. He even introduced my wife and I, and there's a reason for the connection there. And now we have 3 kids, and I am not a Swiftie.
Oh, not a Swiftie. Okay, good to know.
Not yet.
Not
Correct,
yet,
I guess. Yeah, you never know. I'm always open to those sorts of things.
All right, well, that's great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I will turn it over to you guys here. So, Dr. Andriacci, Dr. Hiley, why the master's program, right? For students who are considering other grad programs, or they might be considering entering the workforce, what is your reasoning for like, nah, you know what? You might want to hold back. You might want to think about entering the grad program, and you should come here to do it.
Well, I think first and foremost, as Dr. Hiley stated, not only did he do his undergrad, he did his master's here. I too did my master's here many, many years ago. So we have a little history with respect to the program. But right now, the master's in applied exercise physiology can really open up your doors both presently and into the future, wherever you decide to go and change. Traditional master's programs, if you were to get like a master's in occupational therapy, you're limited to scope of practice of occupational therapy. Insert any other kind of math. The master's in applied exercise physiology really opens up the doors. So if I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, I can make that happen. And we have students that make that happen that are located all across the United States. If I wanted to go into a clinic, a hospital-like setting, to work as a clinician, exercise testing, cardiovascular rehabilitation, you absolutely have to have your master's. And that's where a master's in applied exercise physiology will train you to get to where you want to go. Also, a handful of people like the route that I took and Dr. Hiley took. Maybe you want to go on to a post master's based program, insert wherever you want to go. That can happen from here. We've got tons of connections out to research one institutions where students have gone on to that next step. We also have students that go into the research side. For example, Geisinger Medical Center has a number of research arms: orthopedics, obesity weight management, rural health, as well as on the insurance end of things. So, for example, the Geisinger Wellness and Health Plan and the newly established 65 Forward program, strategically geared towards older adults in a healthier lifestyle. So the opportunities with a master's degree are really what you want, and that's where we come in. And we can tailor your particular needs outside of the regular coursework that you'd be taking to meet those particular needs. Wherever you go, you're going to be doing some kind of research. You're going to be collecting information and having to disseminate that back. That experience you'll get here.
Yeah, no, that's great. Dr. Holly, do you have anything to add?
I would just also say that our master's program is something often used by people who want to go into coaching. It's another popular area where they want to continue to get their, build their expertise in exercise prescription and exercise programming, but also continue to get great experience with our athletics department in coaching. We always have a number of students that are doing that. And we also have it be a place where a number of students will come and their goal initially was in some other, pre-professional graduate type school, like physician assistant or PT school or even OT school. And maybe, their undergrad maybe wasn't the absolute best performance. Maybe they have like the 3.0 to 3.2 or somewhere in there that might qualify them for the minimum requirements for some of these other programs, but they're not getting looked at just because of the super competitive environment. That we were talking about our PA program recently, and they get 600 applications for 60 seats, super, super competitive. But some of those students then sometimes want to look at some other clinical possibilities. And just like Dr. Andriacci said, this does open those doors to so many other clinical possibilities that a lot of students don't necessarily know that much about, that we're trying to build awareness of. But sometimes it also ends up being that path back to that other professional graduate program. We were just discussing one of our former students who did an undergrad at Lock Haven, came here for the master's degree, and was looking at clinical exercise physiology, but ultimately decided that he did want to go on for a degree in physician assistant, and got accepted to a number of schools and went through and had great success, and is now practicing that because ultimately that's what he decided to do. But regardless, for all of those different avenues, that research focus is a lot of what we do. We believe very strongly that it's an important part of your curriculum and of your own education and of learning how to self-educate from here on out. We believe that's one of the most important things for you to learn in your time with us, is really how to learn and how to investigate questions that you have as a healthcare practitioner someday. And we do consider, the people that end up going into elite strength and conditioning or elite personal training or, elite sport performance, even those sorts of things, there's still that focus of exercise and training for health. So, regardless of the field, we think it's so important that you think of yourself when you come out of our program as, a really important frontline healthcare practitioner. Even if you're a strength and conditioning coach, the health of those athletes is so crucial to their success and their performance. And we believe that everybody should be able to be an educator for their clients someday, be able to pass along the knowledge that we're trying to pass along to them. So many options, and just trying to get across some of our philosophy also.
Yeah, and you bring up some great points. So one, the idea of sports medicine is a huge field now, huge field, and odds are, because I work with students on the prospective undergrad and prospective grad side. The fields that people hear a lot about are nursing, pre-med, and PA. Right, those are typically the three fields that is in the vernacular of prospective students. But the reality is, if you like those fields, well, like the middle of the Venn diagram between those programs and the master's in applied exercise physiology, that middle part is going to be huge. So you would probably like this too, and allows you to almost kind of specialize a little bit while still leaving the door open to provide some additional options. So programs like biology and health sciences and biochem and exercise science, those are great, feeders to this degree here.
You're absolutely right. And again, I think it's with the understanding that, what the master's degree provides you with is the flexibility later in your life as you relocate, as you have a family or establish a new area of the country, to allow you to pivot, because you already have those tools. You know how to do that. You know how to do this, and you're comfortable in your skill set.
Yep, no, you're absolutely right. It's a good investment in your future career. So the program overview, can you just give us from a high level, what the program would entail for prospective students?
Yeah, sure. So traditionally, we're a traditional based 2-year based program. Although some of our present students here at Bloomsburg can fast track their particular program, we're a 36 credit master's program. There are 2 different options, which often serve as probably the most confusing component of the student's application when they apply online, is a thesis and a non-thesis based track. Mm-hmm. A thesis is nothing more than the identification of a research question and the design of a study to answer that question. So that involves a committee of faculty to help to reinforce the student's learning, and then this requires the student to be able to write. One of the most personal things that students don't necessarily do well is writing, and that's where faculty like us come in to help and provide. The non-thesis option is really getting those kids hands-on experience into whatever their eventual career path is. There's really no right or wrong option. Students often just check a box when they apply online, and then once they get here in a class like research methods at the graduate level, you'll determine whether or not this is for you or that, and you could switch either way. As it shows here, there are graduate assistantships both within the department and across this campus. Many of them range in 10-hour per week stipends, and other places have 20-hour a week stipends. But this is a fabulous time to be here on this campus, and joining us in this new applied exercise physiology program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you see, again, so the on-ramps to the degree it's not just for exercise science majors, right? You can
Correct.
also have health science, biochem, anyone with the health.
We've actually had even some psychology majors.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Through our program.
Yep, those are all great fits. Absolutely. The coursework. What types of classes are people going to be taking? What are some of the subjects that might be learning?
So as you can imagine, this is just a list of classes within our program. As you can imagine, regardless of your undergraduate-based program, there is much more depth and learning to how the body responds to exercise. And that will be thrown at you in the graduate level, Exercise Physiology 1 and 2. Normally, those are 2-semester-based classes. In addition to that, a class in clinical exercise physiology, where we're specifically looking at the clinical application that an individual may come in contact with in a clinical setting. Instrumentation and techniques. This is how to calibrate, how to use devices, how to assimilate data, how to calibrate these things, and all of those tests that we use to assess human performance. Research methods, that's pretty much speaks for itself. There's an ECG, exercise testing and cardiac rehab class. There's a biomechanics based course. As you can see, nutrition and supplements, that seems to be a pretty hot topic class right now. I mean, you can see those here.
Yeah, and so you guys have said you've been teaching in the program for a while. If you had to pick one class, like this is the one that I look forward to teaching the most, what do you think your favorite would be? Dr. Andriacci, Dr. Hiley.
I mean, I've got a couple, you know, I mean, I'm a physiologist, so I'm always trying to figure out how and why. I like teaching the research methods. I like teaching exercise, nutrition, supplements. They're really hot. They're I don't want to say the word zesty, but they're really prevalent right now.
Yeah.
So I would probably say those.
Okay. Dr. Hiley.
Yeah, for me, you know, I'm a bit of a cardiology nerd, so I do kind of love my ECG and exercise testing class. Like I love actually trying to make it really interesting for those students who maybe don't want to be a clinical exercise physiologist or don't want to be a cardiac rehabilitation specialist, and so we do a lot of exercise testing, and we just got a new unit with a new treadmill and a new electrocardiogram to do some of that. So we do like enjoy doing maximal testing in a class like that, which of course we can do in anybody, no matter how fit or not. You know, the same basic testing principles are used for somebody with heart failure or are used for somebody with an amazingly functional heart. You know, we're just talking about doing some testing in a marathoner in a couple weeks, which is really cool. But I also will weave stuff into that class about like heart rate variability. That's a really important like training tool that we can get from electrocardiogram. And we talk about the athlete's heart and those rare cardiac issues that athletes can have that some of these students might come across. You know, the sudden cardiac death that we've seen in the NFL, or sudden cardiac issues that we've seen in the NFL or the NBA or in college basketball or in professional soccer. What's going on when that happens, and how ready do we need to be at all times to deal with those sorts of emergency issues. But then the instrumentation laboratory techniques is another one, because we measure everything on each other. Like when you're in our program, you should expect to get sweaty. You should expect to get poked and prodded in different ways. And, you know, we're not asking you to sacrifice your body for science. No, wait a second. Yes, we are. We are asking you to sacrifice your body for science throughout, because the research projects that we're doing line up perfectly with our coursework in so many different ways. And we are constantly weaving that work into these courses. You know, we were just wrapping up an arm of a heart rate validation study, testing all the watches that you have that are your Apple Watch or your Garmin or whatever. We're testing those against the gold standard electrocardiogram. And of course, we could do that testing within our ECG class, because it was in the same way then training everybody how to be experts at that sort of stuff. But it's the same testing that you would use to do like maximal fitness testing and getting all the breathing variables. So we just we weave that stuff in, and we're testing everything in one another. Even, you know, Dr. Andriacci and I jump in and be guinea pigs for pretty much all our studies that we qualify for. So we let you put us through the ringer too.
Yeah, for your program, and I do not have a science background in any way, shape, or form, but the program sounds really fun and engaging, because it's either research. In addition to that, then it's a lot of practical application, right? So like working on hands-on projects. This is not a field that strikes me as a career where you're going to be stuck behind a computer, you know, for hours on end.
Correct. And we're a patient-facing
Right.
profession, and we're going to be talking to people. So if, even for the most introverted people,
Yeah.
like this will change your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Getting people to exercise, getting people motivated to exercise, and then more importantly, tailoring programs to meet their needs is just one facet of this entire educational delivery.
Yeah.
So as you look at the course, the current issues in exercise science, what are some of the topics that you might cover in a class like that?
I think topics, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I know one of those was like gender in sports, transgender in sports, gender identity across competitive sports, I think some drug use was another vein. I can't recall all of the topics.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, just the way just actually looking at some of the projects that some of our students were working on just today for that course. There are obviously some specific hot topic things that are always evolving. In terms of there might be something on like what is like a hot new like way to get across banned substances and what's going on with that, like legal issues in sport. But the course also allows students to pick topics of their own and do that additional research and present some of that stuff. So there are components in that course as well as a number of the others. I know you do the same thing for exercise, nutrition, and supplements, Dr. A, where you do like we hand it over to the student a little bit because this field is changing, I feel, every single day. Every semester, there are new articles, new research coming out that we are obligated to weave into our courses because they are important, because they change the field. And these issues are, in some ways, when we hand these projects over and we, have our students responsible for certain things, then we make sure that they're presenting that to their classmates because they're learning stuff that they will then teach to their classmates. And every semester I'm learning from them through that process. And that's an important part of a lot of the courses. And in current issues, that's a really big part of that, because what is a really important current issue to me might not be that important to a lot of the other students, depending on what they want to go into, whether it's coaching or strength and conditioning or pulmonary rehabilitation. So they can then seek the current issues in their particular end goal and become the expert on that for a little project and then present that to the rest.
No, that sounds great. That sounds great. Career options. And I know, we briefly talked about this, and Dr. Harley, you might recognize the person in this photo here. He looks somewhat familiar.
He looks young. I've seen.
As you look at the career options, so we talked about this kind of at the beginning, some of the other programs in health sciences, they are prescriptive, right? If you go to grad school to be for OT, you're going to be an occupational therapist. There is no variation of that. If you go to school to be a PA, you're going to be a physician assistant. There is no variation from that. Whereas this program, it's going to prepare you for a field, but not necessarily pigeonhole you into one specific job. So what are some of the career options that you've seen some of our grads go into?
We've had a number of students that would start a particular course and then pivot. So for example, you might be out there saying, like, I really want to go into cardiovascular rehabilitation, exercise testing. We've had a number of students go that route and work in that space for a number of years until a different life event happens, maybe working a better job opportunity, maybe a family makes them want to pivot, and they're pivoting to a research capacity within the network, within the health system. Or maybe they're pivoting to a different somewhere they'll be continuing to utilize their master's degree, but moving on to a different kind of scenario. We've had a number of students do those kinds of things. The master's degree doesn't limit you, it's what you make of it. So for example, if you are thinking that you're going to move back to your small town with your master's degree and start to work at the local, you may need to relocate get that experience as you would to do anything needed for a job, work for a couple of years, and then be able to put your stamp on life. The same would be applied to like strength and conditioning. We've had a number of students that want to go into strength and conditioning, and they start out at a Division III school or a Division II school, and maybe their ultimate goal is, no one ever just jumps right in and goes right to to the NFL or some premier-based program. You need to earn your stripes and work your way through. Now, we have plenty of students that are at Division I schools as strength coaches, and Division II and Division III schools, and even at high schools as a strength and conditioning coach. So what you make of it is where we can help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, and this is someone's career, right? So like this should be more than just a Google search, and I think that's where your experience, Dr. Andriachi, and your experience, Dr. Hiley, and your connections in the field and your experience in advising, really the advising part is so important, because there's so many things you can do with this degree, but the advising component they would get from someone like yourself or Dr.
Well,
Hiley.
and I think, you have noted on here, some of our students use the, as Dr. Hiley pointed out, they use the master's degree as the stepping stone for PT school or PA school. Why? Because maybe their undergrad, like Dr. Hiley said, was a little wavery. They're retaking like core-based prerequisites, but the master's degree solidifies your commitment to education. Not that you're just going to go home and work at, the local factory or a supermarket or something for a year. It shows you're committed to your education and learning more that you can then use to get you into that terminal degree program.
I think one of the other important things that I thought about looking down through these career options is that we have students, recent students, and students from years back, from when I was here, when Joe was here, who are doing all of these things right now, and many of them in this region. And we thrive on those connections and building new connections. And as much as we'd like to believe we have everything to do with some of our students and their success, sometimes that success comes once we connect them to an alum that's out there doing it for real. And then they get out there, they maybe do a practicum experience with one of these alumni, and then they make that connection in the real world, and they see it, on a day-to-day basis for a while. And then it's that connection that then gets them in to that role, or gets them, ultimately connected to that field, and helps them, finalize their decision for what they want to pursue when they're leaving here. So that's it's really neat how much we link students to alums, and those students that take advantage of it are the ones that are, at least I've always seen them being the ones that are really finding their way, the ones that take advantage of those connections, because they're so important. Because like you said, like we are, we're in this field because we like to be with one another. We like to connect with people. We are people. We are hands-on people. We are social people. And, that's why you go into this field, just like, I know some people in my family that are ignorant. They just think I'm some like college gym teacher or something, but there is a sort of essence of that where I feel like within this field, because of the way, I get to play and connect with people and whatever, I might call my new electrocardiogram, my new toy, but we do just like to be here, and we like to play with other kids in this field. And that's what, these connections are. We still have these, did that sound? Sorry. But
other people
we,
in the field.
yeah, don't repeat. You're recording this, but we don't want to like shy away from that idea that we love to be with each other, and we love to make those connections. And that is what I think drives so much of the success of our students coming out of this program, is the ones who are, open to making those connections with people, and that's where like that real motivation comes at the end of a degree like this, where you are willing to get out there and experience these actual sites and are motivated to do that. Because if you're not, then you're never going to truly know what you want to do. You have to experience it to really know.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Andriachi made a good point earlier too, where he said, this is um, you're working with patients. This is I think patient facing, was that the term you used? And
Yeah.
I think what you just talked about, Dr. Holly, is that's great preparation. For bedside manner, it's great preparation for connecting with a fellow patient where this might be their first experience working on working with some of these things. So I think that's a great point. So question
And
for
many
you.
of those skills will be built upon
Yeah.
doing the masters.
Mhm.
It's not like
Yeah.
you're going to be able to walk into a room and command it.
Mhm.
But you'll get that experience.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So, follow-up question for you both. If you did not move into the world of college faculty, if you were to go into a different role within this field, what would you be doing, Dr. Andriachi?
I think I would have, I would have probably been doing research, like, like maybe some type 2 diabetes, obesity research.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably where I would have been. I can't, I think I didn't know that, and I think maybe some of you who are out there, maybe you're like, what do I do with my life? I try to reiterate to my students, like, I didn't know that I wanted to do this as a big kid job until I was about, I was in my first semester of my master's program.
Mm.
And for me, I was a biology undergraduate, had a great time in my undergraduate days. And, I went, I came here and I had a fabulous mentor. She was fantastic. She allowed me to the ability to present some data, some research, stand in front of people like I never even met, to parlay this information.
Mhm.
And I knew by the end of my first semester that this is what I wanted to do as a big kid job, and have this work-life balance well before the criterion of work-life balance occurred. And I haven't looked back since. So for me, it took me, however many years of my life. And, much like Dr. Hiley said, like, hey, people in my family didn't know, like, was I a gym teacher? What do I do? I'm like, I'm not, like, does it bother me? No, it doesn't bother me, because I'm in the gym sometimes personally, but we're in the lab doing exercise testing.
Mhm.
I'm not worried about that. So don't worry about your path. You'll get to where you want to go. And sometimes it might take a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I'm kind of a lot the same. I mean, I didn't actually decide to go like into a teaching position until like actually late in my PhD. I was very set on the research end of things, and when I was at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, I was in pediatric pulmonology and kids with cystic fibrosis, doing exercise with them, and talking with these patients on the phone each week, and going to their homes and putting together exercise bikes that we had funded through this project. And I loved that patient connection and the research with them. And I loved that part of it so much that I was even, I was studying for MCATs and thinking about like what other science courses I had to take to like go on to medical school to be like Dr. Orenstein, who I was working with at Children's Hospital there. But the ultimately decided to go the teaching route, because I didn't really start doing that until the very end of my PhD. I got the experience to do like a teaching practicum, mentored by one of my advisors there, and the way that they um, taught their classes and weave their research into classes and got undergrads and master's students involved with it every step of the way. And then that became such an important teaching component for them. That's when I really fell for this end of it. That is really what we get to do every single day. So it's awesome. But I didn't find that until like year 8 of school. So it does take a while. I had different goals every single degree, and they shifted every time. I wanted to be an AT, and then I was PT, and then I was clinical ex phys, and then I was research, and then I was thinking about other things, and then it was teaching. And I never had to change majors. Never had to change majors to do it.
That's a great point. Yeah, all those things were options in the programs that you were in.
Yeah, I mean, I have students now that you know, I mean, I think we've even had students that have applied to PT school and OT school,
Yeah.
but also qualified for AT and could have come to our program. And because it just takes, a couple of unique prerequisite science courses or an extra psych, and then they qualify for all of it. And that is a strength. But it also is, for some students that can't focus in on the idea of, I actually have to pick something. It does get tricky for some. And that's where we come in.
Yeah, it's consultative. You don't have to you don't need to know exactly what you're going to do with this degree, right?
Right.
This is something where you're going to find it along the way. Like, you're going to know it when you see it, or you're going to know it when Dr. Hiley, Dr. Andriachi advises you into it. Says, hey, you might want to think about this. Hey, you like this class. You might like doing this as a job then.
And that goes back to making those connections and experiencing it and really being involved in that process. We always have the student in, undergrad and in the master's sometimes where they try to kind of hide from that conversation. But we do our best to, like, hey, we got to think about this, let's go. Let's get you out there. Don't this person working down at this place and doing these great things, and let's connect you and let's get it going. So we do get pushy at some point for that, because we know they sometimes are standing there at the ledge, like, which choice do I make? It's like, this is not a steep ledge. There's just something right down there. Just go try it out, just go do it.
Yep.
And see what you think.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy. So, and here's some of our alumni, in terms of where our graduates have gone, and all of just runs the full gamut of different career opportunities and what you can do with this degree, whether it's working at a major national hospital like the Cleveland Clinic or St. Luke's or Geisinger, Johns Hopkins, or working for Division I universities in Cornell and Penn State and University of Delaware, to professional sports teams. There's a number of different career opportunities that are embedded within the program. Do you guys have anything else to add on our alumni and the directions they typically go in?
I mean, I'll speak to one, because tomorrow I have Declan McDonald coming in and speaking in two of my classes. He's at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And what I love about his story is that he was a patient there as a kid.
Oh, wow.
And, has had multiple heart surgeries because of a congenital defect, and has had it a goal of his, to work with kids like him for so long, because he was so influenced by his clinical exercise physiologist working with him as a kid and going back to them as a patient, throughout his, younger adult years even. And he came here, great, track and cross country runner, did our master's program, ended up working with one of our other alums who is a classmate of mine, Scott Kalp, who's a exercise physiologist and echocardiogram specialist at Lancaster General Hospital. He built up some great experience there. And then his goal position came up at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, even after just being at Lancaster for maybe 2 years. And he was a perfect fit for that. And now he's in his dream job. I mean, and honestly, already at 26 years of age, in his dream job, which is epic. And so he gets to come back tomorrow and share that story. And it's really, really awesome.
And he gets to make a huge difference. I mean, talk about an impactful career, literally saving lives. And that's a great story.
Yeah. And then the last one, I think the last one I added onto this slide was the Blue Jays, because Zach Collars was one of our grad students who came from he did undergrad elsewhere, I think in New York or somewhere, and came here and was involved with the baseball team and was really going the strength and conditioning, elite sport performance, and got a great job with a Northern Jersey facility that worked with some MLB players, some professional soccer players, some NFL athletes, who since we've sent students to observe with him, even since he's been there. But then applied, after being only there for a couple of years, applied for a strength and conditioning position with the Blue Jays, and they ate him right up. And it's just another great story of just, sometimes you have to pay your dues. Like Dr. A said at one point, you got to go and work, some other job where it's a grind and you're you're the low man on the totem pole. You're doing your training and you might also be cleaning some stuff. But you get that great experience for a couple of years somewhere and maybe be broke for a little bit longer. And then, your dream job can come up and they'll take you because of
Late
the
gratification.
education you have and the experience you've developed in even such a short amount of time. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Dr. Andracci, do you have anything to add?
No. I mean, I think it's better boots on the ground
Yeah.
to be able to make those connections once you're here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Labs and facilities. And I know there's a lot of great opportunities to get some hands-on experience. We're not sending people off site, like all these things already embedded in the exercise science and applied exercise physiology community we have at CU Bloomsburg. Can you talk a little bit about the labs and facilities and instrumentation?
Yeah, I mean, we have a traditional, in a sense, exercise physiology lab with a metabolic cart, as Dr. Hiley said, ECG monitoring system, anaerobic power bikes. We've got a number of body composition devices. We do have a DEXA scanner. And we've got a beautiful resistance training facility where there are a number of squat cages, squat racks, multifunctional use area. I mean, we've got everything that you need.
And then grad program placement. I know this is something that we talked about too, is sometimes this can be a stepping stone to continuing your education. And here's some of the locations where students might have, I'm assuming they've probably done PhD programs.
Yeah, I mean, I think for some students, not a large percentage, I mean, a small percentage of students decide that they want to go on to get their terminal degree and go get their terminal degree. And now they are at institutions all over the country. So if that be the choice, again, doesn't have to be made the first week that you're here, we can get you there.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, this should alleviate a lot of concern, right? Where there's so many things you can do with this degree. You could decide, you know what, I'm going to do my master's degree and I'm ready to enter the job. The job.
Yeah, I mean, I with that, I mean, a number of years ago, we had a student that applied for a research position at Penn State as a research coordinator. She was in her master's program. She actually was offered the job before she graduated with her master's degree.
Oh, wow.
And she ended up going to school for free and now works. She has her PhD, works in the same exercise psychology laboratory, and she's slaying it. It's awesome.
Oh, that's a great story. Yeah, that's a great story. The application in admission process. You could see.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, if you don't know, I think, did you send them like you waive the like if you're waive the application stuff. If you're not a Commonwealth student, you'll need to send your transcripts, statement of goals, why you want to go to get your master's degree. I think the most important piece of information that I could tell you, as Mr. Crush would say, is to apply. I'm not sure, Tom, did you send them a link? Like, hey, here's the link to apply if you want to do it. If you're sitting back there saying like, oh, I'm not sure, like, what's the worst that happens? You apply, you answer a couple of questions, the the biggest thing that I feel that students is a statement of goals. Like, why do you want to go get your master's? Is it because it's going to open up all of these doors? Is it because of a more personal reason? Like, I want to go into cardiovascular rehabilitation because I have a loved one that passed away, a grandpa that passed away at early age. Just a couple of sentences, a paragraph or two on the rationale why you want to go.
Yeah. No, yeah, it certainly is not a, because really, I mean, the transcript is going to give you, Dr. Andriachi and Dr. Holly, all the information you need to
Correct.
make, to find the right fit for the right candidate. We're waiving the application fees for anyone who is watching. So when you get to the end of the application, all you have to do is say, I participated in a virtual event, and we will waive the application fee. It's a very brief application process insofar as, again, the greatest predictor for success in graduate school is going to be your undergraduate transcript, which is why it's a brief application process.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to ask you this, Dr. Andriachi, Dr. Hiley, what semesters do you typically take applications for? Is it fall, spring, and summer? Is it year round?
So I take year round, like you could apply whenever you want. I do have a number of current Bloomsburg students that are transitioning. I like to use that. They're phasing into our graduate. Maybe
Sure.
they've taken one class, but you can apply anytime, and we'll get you into the cycle.
Perfect.
Rolling admission, I think, is the word.
Rolling admission. Bingo. You got it. You got it. And this is Dr. Andriachi's contact information. Obviously, again, we all work for you, and we're happy to do so. So if there's any questions that you have, whether it's an hour from today, a week from today, a month from today, please do not hesitate to contact us. Dr. Andriachi, I see you smiling.
I'm looking at that picture and it's like, caption this. Like, like I just wonder what the caption would be if I showed this picture to a student or my own family. Like, caption this photo. Like, who knows what's going to happen?
The toughest crowd would have likely been your own family, would be my guess.
Definitely.
I could have picked a better photo. I apologize.
Well, I mean, this is great. To all of you people out there, like, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
I mean, jumping on here. I mean, if there's questions, like, we're happy to answer questions.
Yeah, and actually, what we'll do right now is I'm gonna wrap it up and stop the recording, and then we'll open it up to Q&A to everyone who's.
Oh, yeah.
So, for those of you who are watching the recording, or you hung with us live, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Again, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are always happy to help. We certainly look forward to hearing from everybody in the future.